Disconnection and cultural fragmentation are rampant. We can fix this by blending art and spirituality into everything we do. The ancient artist who lived over 5 centuries ago revealed the secrets of Tsankawi, a unique historical site in New Mexico. Now she escorts us into sacred ceremonial sites, artistic enclaves, and a theatrical performance. This episode shows how art, performance, and creativity help sustain a life where spirituality is deeply intertwined with every aspect of community. Our ancient ancestors had a tangible bond with nature and the cosmos. That bond is broken. Join me, Shaman Eagleheart, as I connect with spirits who want to share their advice about how we rebuild this bond. Let's go back 600 years to an ancestral Puebloian mesa at the intersection between art, history, and spiritual practice. This is the story of an adventure at Tsankawi. It's in the United States, near Bandelier National Monument in New Mexico. In the Tewa language, Tsankawi means village between 2 canyons at the clump of sharp, round cacti. This site is a mesa with a flat top that has intricate carved caves and strange carved channels. Archaeological evidence places the construction and occupation within a 400-year period between 1200 and 1600 AD. An incredible healer friend of mine, Matthew, took me to this sacred site. Before climbing the mesa, we performed our ceremony and made our offerings. And just as we were introducing ourselves and stating our intention to learn about this site and asking permission to be there, the spirit of a young woman appeared. She was a stunning young woman. Long dark hair in braids with little feathers tied at the ends. I think they were flicker feathers. She wore a loose buckskin skirt, and over her chest was a sort of fringed leather poncho that made like this V shape from her shoulders down to her waist. I remember that she had a turquoise and shell necklace, and she wore sandals on her feet with lacing straps that wrapped around her ankles. And she had a matching turquoise ankle bracelet on her left ankle. Our presence here seemed completely natural to her, and she said she would be happy to show us around. Her time and her world was very present, but I was a little nervous about the show us around part. But thankfully, it was remarkably easy for me to navigate on this site. So often, the terrain in their time is so completely different to the present time that walking around proves very difficult. But this time, it was easy. Maybe because the site is carved into the rock, it stayed pretty much the way it was in her time hundreds of years ago. So as the 3 of us, Matthew, our spirit guide, and I, climbed up a ladder to the side of the mesa, we passed incredible carved caves. It doesn't feel right to call them caves. They're houses, people's homes, carved into the stone. The stone is tuff, which is lithified volcanic ash, and it's very easy to carve. Our spirit guide wanted to take us up top to witness a ceremony taking place, but I couldn't resist having a look inside some of these carved homes as we passed by. Looking in, I could see colorful blankets and rugs and beautiful pottery, jars and bowls and some animal and human statues, but no people. Our guide explained that everyone was up at the celebration. As we continued our climb, she shared that she was an artist and a potter, and also had the gift of seeing spirits. She had seen us perform our ceremony below the mesa. It was similar to hers. Well, Matthew and I explained that in our time, we are shamans and healers. And she asked if her people were still here in our time. Well, being a local, Matthew knew the history of the area, and he told her that her people left this site about 600 years ago. We had to take a moment to clarify if we were counting by the moon, the sun, or by a star. Matthew and I think she meant Venus. She was really intrigued and asked if she could see the site in our time. I said that I could describe it to her, but she said, "No, I'd like to see it through your eyes." I said that I didn't know how to do that, and she said, "It's pretty easy with spirits." So she had me sit cross-legged on a rock outcrop, and then she sat behind me with her legs around me. And she asked if it was all right to merge with my spirit. I said, "Sure, it's not the strangest thing that spirits have ever done with me." Immediately, there was like goosebumps and like a really dizzying sensation. So I pivoted my gaze to take in the caves and the terrain, and then she withdrew and she stood up. She walked a few paces away and she looked out at the landscape. She took a really deep breath and she turned back to us. I asked if she was okay, and she said, "Yes, thank you. It was sad to see our village empty, but you come from a long time in the future. Some of the men are still in the kiva right now, counseling about whether or not we'll migrate from here in the winter." She moved over to the carved hand and foot holds and continued up to the top of the mesa. Matthew and I, we took the ladder. She led us up a side passage marked with the petroglyph of a kachina. She told us that this was put here for visitors. It marked the way to the performance area. Well, we emerged up on top of the mesa. It was a breathtaking 360-degree view with the dry riverbed and the vast desert below us. And just then, I started to perceive laughter and drumming. And as I turned around, I could see an arbor made of timber and like in a horseshoe shape. The afternoon sun was shining on performance happening in front of the arbor. We stopped in the shade of the arbor to watch the performance. There were clowns entertaining the children and the families. The performers were doing lots of tumbling and chasing and falling. It was really good slapstick humor. The clowns were dressed in black and white, with body paint also black and white. All the people were laughing and cheering. The performance reminded me of the Italian style of clowning known as commedia dell'arte. People were beginning to notice us, and I felt that we were becoming a distraction to the performance, so we moved outside onto the easternmost edge of the mesa. Our guide explained that eventually all the children would continue to play with the clowns while the adults would head to the western part of the mesa, where there was a body being prepared for sky burial. She said that we could go there once the ceremony was complete and the body was washed and painted and put up on the scaffold tower. Sorry, there is so much about Tsankawi. All right, the part of the adventure that I wanted to share with you is that as we were heading to the eastern end of the mesa, in her time there are dwellings built on the mesa top, and we were in front of them on a large flattened plaza with 3 kivas. I could see the round outlines and the ladders protruding through the square openings. One kiva had no ladder and a blanket over the opening, and this meant that the kiva was in use. This was the men's council that she spoke about earlier. Later, Matthew and I would join this council meeting in the kiva, but that's another story. I told you, there was a lot going on here. Anyway, we walked through the plaza, again deserted, because everyone was at the performance. Well, I guess except for the men in the kiva. No, I am going to stick to this part of the story. We walked past the buildings, over to an area where there were hundreds, if not thousands, of broken pot shards on the ground. These pot shards were both in her time and in our time. So I asked our spirit guide why so many pot shards, why so many broken pottery was here. And she said, well, this is the beginning point of the mesa. This is the part facing the east where the sun rises. When a pot is damaged or cracked or not useful anymore, we bring it here and smash the pot with an offering of corn. I asked why they did that, and she explained that the design of every pot and bowl belongs to the universe. It's given to the artist while they're creating the pot. Each piece of pottery holds magic. The designs we put on our pottery give life and purpose to each vessel. The design holds the prayers and the intention behind the creation of the vessel. The creation of pottery is a ceremony. We bring the 4 elements together: earth, water, fire, and air. When the pot is cured, this magic is locked in. When the pottery no longer fulfills its purpose, then we break it to release the prayers and the intentions. We release the art and the design back into the universe so that it's available to be reconstituted and reused by another artist. The corn is for the spirit designers in the stars to send us more designs. Looking at all the broken pieces, I saw a distinct style, and I asked her about this, and she explained that their designs come from a particular group of star teachers. She said our artists are trained to communicate with those artists in the stars. All of our designs are cycled from the universe down to the artists and back to the universe. This message was profound in its simplicity. It resonated deeply and enriched the understanding of my role as a conduit for the spiritual and the creative. In another part of my life, I do a lot of work with artists. I often tell them that art is our way of putting love into the world. Some artists do it through music, some through story, some through performance, some through physical creations. But I love this idea of the cycle of creativity, being in harmony with the resonance of creativity from the universe, and then returning our creations back to the universe to be available to other artists. Our final moments at Tsankawi were spent reflecting on the cycle of life and creation. The broken pottery shards, once vessels of everyday life, were now offerings at the edge of the mesa. Returned to the earth under the first light of dawn. This act of breaking and offering was not just an end, but a renewal. Back at the base of the mesa, Matthew and I took some time to be silent and just reflect. We were filled with gratitude for the journey and the lessons that we had learned as we crossed the bridges between worlds. Today's journey through Tsankawi has provided us with more than just a historical tour. It's offered us practical strategies for integrating art and spirituality into our everyday routines, enriching our lives and our communities. My sight whispering transcends time. Now, this ability provides a bridge to the past that allows us to connect with those who came before us in meaningful and personal ways. It deepens our connection to a shared human heritage as it reminds us of the profound impact that understanding and honoring ancient cultures has on our appreciation for human history. Now, as some of you know, I'm an artist, and I work with lots of artists. So I'm really grateful for the lesson of how art is not owned, but briefly held and then passed on. This ancient artist taught us the beauty of humility in creation and the power of releasing our work back into the world, allowing it to inspire and serve others. Releasing our personal claim to creativity can lead to a richer, more shared experience that benefits all of society. This intimate exploration has uncovered how deeply interconnected art, community, and spirituality were for these ancient Pueblo ancestors, offering us lessons on how to weave art and spirituality into our own lives, and how to use this to deepen the connection to our own communities. So thanks for exploring this ancient site with me. If you want to take a deeper dive, there's a free ebook with beautiful lessons and reflections about the spirit encounter that we just had on my website at eagleheart.com.au. And if you want to experience more ancient wisdom and sound healing, follow, subscribe, and be sure to click the notification bell so you can join me for more shamanic adventures. There are more stories waiting to be shared and more mysteries waiting to be uncovered. If you want to meet other spirits that share this world with us, check out Spirit Rejection, Humorously Helpless in the Teepee. And for more about blending spirituality into our lives, watch Mystical Alignments, the Spirit Sisters of Santa Cristina.